Hello, hello.
Hello.
All right. Looks like we're almost complete. Art isn't here. Did did Art actually
He showed
join?
up last time.
Okay, but this is the first time we meet for the
Yeah.
this section. Hey.
One of these days, I'm gonna buy a USB hub that works, and then like you guys will finally know what I look like.
This expense one.
Right?
Ooh, a pull request.
Yep. So this is what I wanted us to look into essentially today.
That was the wrong thing.
Did I do the wrong thing?
No, I did the wrong thing.
Okay.
My proprietary work operating system does copy and paste a little odd.
Sounds like you're using Gen 2.
I miss my delightful open source Red Hat Linux laptop.
Hmm. You know, after a while, we all say like, "Oh, the OS doesn't matter. The work, the work's the same," but it kind of does.
Matters a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I was at a no meeting. You guys are gonna find this really, really funny. And we literally had an argument over the expectation of you open up your laptop, you open Evolution, and you want to send an email, not expect to have to write a patch to then maybe get the interface to work to then maybe send an email. And they were like,
Yeah,
"What's
how do you
wrong
know?
with that? That sounds normal. That's just Linux. What are you talking about?"
Yeah. How do you know it's Friday? Oh, I didn't have to recompile my email client.
So after we're
So,
done and you want to try to merge this, you're going to have a small conflict. I added a link to the Zoom meeting, but that should be fine. I'm pretty sure you could figure that out.
we'll see. Otherwise, I'll just quit.
Ah.
So, Randall, did you get a chance to open up the pull request?
Yes, I have it open.
Cool. So, if you folks are okay, like these are mostly aesthetic changes, but there's one big thing in there, which is the point. Like if you go to the diff, like explicitly here, let me link it here. But the file diff itself, I think that we should remove the, which point was it? There's a training thing in there.
Okay.
Oh yeah, line 19 in red, 3.2.
Yep.
Create playbooks and guidance documents. I do not think this is something the operational section should own.
How is the operations team going to know how to do things if there aren't any playbooks or training?
I would just argue from the fact that I'm in part of a lot of SIGs or in a lot of groups, and this is in like every single one of them.
So I fully agree we need training documents for our group. The way this is currently worded is not for the group. It is for the community. It is we like this, the way this is worded is we will generate training material for maintainers.
Okay.
I think that we should, if we want to have like an explicit training objective or documentation one, it should be really internally facing.
And what about, do you think those materials would be useful to maintainers and projects?
They would eventually for sure. But I do not think this is the duty of the operations team to like ensure this is a publicly digestible version of it. Like the education SIG might actually like loop in and jointly work with us going forward to convert that into something usable for the communities. But the CERT should focus on its work from my perspective. Like I want to be careful about scope creep.
Yeah, that's I'm fine with it. I would like, let's not lose it. I think it's important, maybe make it an issue over with the education SIG, collaborate with this SIG to create project and maintainer focused IR docs.
Who made the
Let me-
CVD guide? Was that the education SIG or best practices?
Vulnerability coordination.
Them
I'm
too.
wrapped up in all that shit.
Yeah.
So
But
actually, what would be better is we could fob that over to the vulnerability disclosures group to create and then work with the education. So let's do that. Let's push it over to Vuln Disclosure because we're looking for a new project over there.
Also,
And then I'm fine with removal.
just wrote, this is somewhat off topic, but just quick note, Crob, I told Jocks to talk to you because in the securing softwares group, they want to make a help desk that kind of in some ways is similar to the CERT. So I told him that I thought that there should be some communication there as well.
Well, you might recall that Mike Scovetta came to
Yes.
one of the groups and asked about basically making a SOC.
Yeah.
And we politely routed him elsewhere.
Yes, I remember.
But yeah, I could talk. I love talking with Jacques. We could talk about risk management. One of my favorite topics.
So Randall, which group was this? You said
The
education SIG or
the securing software's repo. Long story short, their intention is to approach the TAC with a budget which currently sits at like 300,000 or 600,000 because they're talking about employing 1 or 2 people to basically be somewhat of a help desk for like software repositories such as Ruby gems, Pythons, whatever they call their thing. Should know, but it's just escaping me.
Was that for like token resets?
That was exactly that.
Yeah,
that and other
we
things.
talked about it this week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that and other things. But I felt like because we had the discussion about if this CERT is going to focus on critical incident response or if this is going to be kind of an educational / incident response thing. And I think because we kind of landed on that 50-50 mark, I kind of felt that it kind of starts to be somewhat of the same thing.
Okay. I wrote that down and put that in the comment in the pull request, what we just talked about.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and I'm fine with that removal, Francis.
Yeah, but do we have like I know it's useless to ask, but do we have a process to move work around between SIGs and working groups?
I'll just file an issue.
Okay, I'll just
We'll
make
file
it
an
a-
issue. I get the opportunity to facilitate most of these groups, so I'll make sure it gets
Okay.
put in the backlog and prioritized.
Okay, perfect.
But no, aside from filing an issue, I don't think there's an official documented process. It's all in the honor system.
Sounds good. Otherwise, so the rest of it, it's mostly cosmetic, like I said, right? But is it possible to preview it straight up in there?
I have the view
yeah.
where I have the red and green text, so I can.
So yeah, there's the view of diff on the diff, and there's also this explicit one which actually renders the markdown.
Oh, really? Oh, would you look at that? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look at you
Randall,
with your fancy little boxes.
Yeah, I got
Oh
it.
yeah, man. Features today. So I basically rephrased some of the objectives to be like shorter and succinct.
Good.
And descriptions and explanations are just, intuitively part of it. So I don't think we need an explicit header for it. Otherwise, I included some dependencies explicitly there with like the big red X's.
Mm-hmm.
These are things we actually should be depending on other sections before we tackle.
Okay. I like that.
That is pretty cool.
I might have to
Now-
open source this for all the other plan stuff.
That's why I'm doing it right in there, man. For tracking, if you look at the top like there's a fourth bullet point that I added for tracking TBD.
Mhm.
Going forward, this is more of a logistical question for you, Krob, I guess. How do we want to track that work? Like, I know we have issues, we have stuff like that, but for you as a SIG owner and for I as a co-lead for like these areas, I will want to know what the status is on these sections and the work that's being done. We don't necessarily have to tie ourselves down to a quarterly cadence, but we will have to report to the TAC.
Yeah, and I honestly, my dream, well, we're the TAC and the governing board are starting budget conversations. And that's kind of the mobilization plan is a little bit outside that, but I would prefer to have something done by the end of the year, very early next year as a proposal back to the funders. So yeah, how would we want to track progress? I haven't invested a lot of time to think about that. Maybe you and Dave Rousseau and I can sit down and talk about that because he also has a very project manager focus and might have some suggestions on how we can track all this and I can then implement it in the other group.
Mhm.
But worst case, I would
How do you spell Dave Russo?
RUSSO. He's helping me out with education.
Does he have a GitHub account?
He does. I believe it's RH-D Russo. So he's my Francis for education.
Okay.
My trusted partner.
Quick question that's kind of on this topic. So I was actually reading like some of the backlogs because I had time, and I noticed that Google, when they co-founded the OpenSSF, they had specific goals in their blog posts, some of which the CERT takes care of, some of which we don't exactly align with. Does that matter or does that not matter?
If someone from Google is interested in bringing those items into the group to propose to want to include it, that's great. Otherwise, this group is kind of self-managing. And when we propose it back up to the governing board, I'm sure we'll get additional feedback there.
Okay.
But we're basically self-made. This is the body of, we've talked about this several times, this is the body of work our team has decided we feel is worthwhile and to focus on. And patches are always welcome, but right now I'm not looking to add more scope.
Well, let me say this specifically so you know where I'm saying. So on their blog post, they say that part of the OpenSSF objective was to create a group of people that can help secure the critical projects. So it kind of made me wonder if the list that the Securing Critical Projects Working Group is making, I wonder if that's the list that we should be working off of or how all of that aligns. Because I see everyone working kind of as their independent planet, but like it kind of seems like the ideology was that it would all kind of align at some point.
So my intention was to reach out to review that list as part of which group?
Secure. It's
no, I meant which plan group. I think that's going to be part of your group, understanding the problem space. So that would be, I would like to reach out to some of those projects and maintainers as part of our efforts there, just to kind of see what services they might be interested in. And
that list doesn't exist yet because it's my responsibility and Caleb's responsibility to put it together. So,
well, we already have 2 Harvard censuses that we can start.
Okay, that takes off a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and we'll pick a handful of maybe ideally things we might have relationships with, or we know from our experiences we know are very important projects. So try to reach out to those folks to get their opinions around things they would benefit from. Okay. But we talked about like a bug bar in one of the groups of how to decide what work we do as a team. and the critical projects could be a form of bug bar in our triage. Once I think we're up and running, but we need to talk about and decide on how we want to manage our work.
Right on. I was just mentioning that because I don't know if that relates to execution of like relating with other groups and pulling in that work and that sort of thing.
It will eventually, but we need that section 1 to define what it is that we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But you're correct. It is part of the equation.
Fair.
And maybe
So
as part of our calculus, maybe if we get a request from one of those critical projects, those might get escalated in the queue, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we need to figure that out.
The reason that I got involved with that is because initially we had a Excel sheet where anyone could like put a critical project. And then Caleb was the first one that was like, maybe we should have a score. And then I was like, yeah, we should. And that's how it basically became. Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, can I get your eyes back on this rendered markdown diff? Today we won't have time, obviously, to basically generate milestones and tasks for each of these. But there are, like, for example, 3.1, we definitely can start thinking about it, even if we don't have the full list of determined scope by section 1. Rendell, Krob, do you have interest in owning any of that? Like, I don't have an explicit owner's field, but I will add it. Otherwise, I can have a look at what's the tech stacks actually exist, like for discovery and documentation. First step here would really be to just like, okay, what exists with respect to, Vince is one of the tools that we can use and probably should look into.
And this is like private communication channels, that type of stuff.
I could probably do
I do not have time to own it. I'm glad to take individual tasks and run out, but I can't own it right now.
I can do anything because I have a large amount of time available. Gen 2 doesn't really care what I do.
Good for you. Good for you.
But I also get paid accordingly. Let me just say that. It's not like I have like a Google salary. Okay.
So my suggestion, if you do have quite a bit of time, would be to get that 2.1 like discovery and section 1 stuff well started, because that's going to be feeding into section 3's work very quickly. Like as far as blockers and prioritization is concerned, this would be the highest thing. Since you're sharing the work with other sections, I think that this is the biggest impact you can have right now is that.
And like, as we talk to other security teams, we can talk about their tooling. I think that'd be hopefully we can.
I can have those conversations as I maneuver next week through all the working groups.
Cool. So Rendell, if you can have like take a minute of time every time, just send. I'm going to start an issue and I'll send it on the Slack for like the discoverability aspect. So if you can just paste like, oh, let's have a look at this, and a little comment, no need for like a long diatribe, but just a little tweet about it as in like, oh, Vince, so such and such groups using it, they love it. We should probably look at that. Things like that. It will just redirect the portfolio that we're going to build for like later decision making.
Right on. I can do that.
Cool. So yeah, otherwise.
Are we already in contact with Alpha Omega for CERT? Like, do they know we exist?
Yeah, he knows we exist.
Okay.
And we can reach out to the Michaels and that project anytime we want.
They're pretty easy to work with. So I'm assuming that we're going to be using the alpha tooling, right? Or it should be.
What is the alpha tooling?
They have like, they call it the alpha tooling. I don't know.
That's like auditing, pen testing, fuzzing type stuff.
But as in those tickets that they find, would those go through the CERT, or would those, how does that work? And another question why I'm starting to ask these questions is because I was a part of the meeting of how like we need to communicate better so that there's not a million people attacking the groups. So yeah. Or like the projects. So that's why I'm asking this question.
I believe they are filing PRs with the projects that they are engaging. They have findings on or are engaged with. So I don't know if they have a centralized ticket system.
So they're not a CERT responsibility. Perfect.
No, they're like a consulting engagement where they come in, do a security audit. They will do pen testing, threat modeling, look at process.
Mm-hmm. That's what I thought.
And right now they're engaging primarily not with projects, but with like a foundation level.
Fair. So is the CERT was our job ever reporting stuff that other groups find? Or is that going to be on the groups?
We could help. It's just, I guess it depends on, what's found, how it's found, what needs done.
Okay. All right. I'm sure we could talk about this in our section 2 meeting.
We haven't talked about like how we're getting work yet. Once we put our sign out front, then we're open for business.
Well, I think wouldn't that be part of our core services?
The coordination, yeah. But again, I don't know whatever, like with the Alpha Omega project, I think they already have a high degree of interaction.
Right.
Their customer, so to speak.
Right. Right on. I will take ownership of 2.1, Francis, and I will take ownership of the issue.
Perfect. I'm not going to put you as owner of 2.1 in this, like in this scope of meeting notes, just because it's definitely not in our section. But yeah, like in 2 weeks' time, do you think 2 weeks is long enough to get started on that?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Excellent. Until then, I'm gonna like have a look around like what kind of tools exist, try to document that in the issue that I'm going to be creating. Crow, do contribute to it if you have like ideas that we should look into.
Yeah, I've experienced like many places create their own tool. A lot of folks use Jira, Bugzilla, GitHub issues. There's a lot of scenarios.
I'm a big fan of free stuff, so I'll definitely preferably go for that.
Mm-hmm.
Crow, one thing I wanted to ask you, like, is it okay if you look into the tracking aspect of it with Dave Russo and like reach out to me?
Yeah, for the tracking projects. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. All right, I'm gonna put you as a
please.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's all good then.
And I'll take ownership of 3.2, the recruitment.
Yes.
I'll have to figure out, like with the foundation, if we're going to hire people or how we get arrangement. I have to talk to the foundation legal, so I'll take point on that. And that's a while away, so I'm glad that won't be a tomorrow problem to deal with.
Sounds good. So if you have a look at the comment.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, it looks like Francis froze.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was moving to a different desktop because I can with my operating system.
Oh! I can make my operating system crash just by like turning it on and doing things.
You should file for a CVE. So yeah, I'm putting these in comments. Do they make sense? Am I paraphrasing too much? Is that format okay going forward for you both?
Let's see, let me refresh that.
Should be 3 comments or 2 comments.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, I'm fine with that.
I would like us to use that kind of very, very public forum for whatever work we do.
I'm good with it.
It's also operating system agnostic and doesn't require us to use Gmail versus internal corp email and blah, blah, blah. Cool. In that case, I think we can adjourn 2 minutes early.
Okay.
Any remaining thing you wanted to bring up here?
Nope, I'm good.
Mm-mm. No, and I think 3.3 is going to be dependent on tooling that we have, like what we're able to pull out and what we have to do manually.
Yep. I'm gonna add another 3.3, which would be like the internal documentation bit
Okay,
we just talked about.
excellent.
Okay.
Thank you, Francis. I appreciate it.
Anytime. In that case, have a great Friday, all.
Do the same. Bye.
Thanks, Francis. Thanks, Chris.